morning. I'm Rowena Crosby.
And I'm Deborah Renner, and we're your co-hosts for this show. Thank you for joining us for the next 17 minutes for Your Invisible Toolbox, the show sponsored by Tero International that features the book Row and I co-authored, and every week we look at a tool for working more effectively with others.
We talk a lot about millennials on this show and in the book, and there's a reason for that. Research shows that millennials are the largest generation in the workplace.
They're the largest generation, and also they have different priorities than other generations in the workplace. Did you know that 87% of millennials will rate professional growth and development as very important to them in their career? And by contrast, non-millennials, there's only 69% of them that actually report that.
That's a big gap.
It is.
So in other words, it's really important to millennials that they learn, grow, and develop new skills.
Yes, but consistently learning and developing new skills can be challenging if your company doesn't offer formal professional training.
And that's really true because the research shows they're more interested in professional development, and the research also shows companies are offering fewer opportunities for formal development.
They are, and there's other research from Vanderbilt University. Listen to this.
This is fascinating.
Business leaders rated themselves and ranked themselves on 67 different managerial skills. Developing others was ranked last. That's leadership, basically.
Exactly. So think about that. A list of 67 skills that are important to leaders, and developing others that most of us would think should be at the top of the list, they're ranking themselves poorest on that. Yikes. So if your company does a good job of developing you, take advantage of that. You probably already know how wonderful timely feedback can be, and take advantage of the opportunities they give for learning and growth.
Much of the time it's on the shoulders of the employee to
Yes.
actually take charge of their professional development. And when we do that, we can constantly know that we're learning new things and we're actually developing new skills. So how do we do that? How do we take charge?
And that's the topic of our show today. Our invisible tool is to learn something new.
And our development challenge is going to be quite fun, and we're going to flex our brain muscles.
Our social media posts are going to be worth sticking around for. So there's a TED Talk, just a very brief one on the fundamentals of learning. And there's a Harvard Business Review article. We're going to highlight some of the insights of it, but it's definitely worth a full read.
We are, and we're thrilled for our interview segment today to welcome Kyle Plummer. He's our Director of Marketing at Tero International. He's also the director of this show, and so we're thrilled to have him on this side of the camera today. And Kyle's going to talk about his professional development as a millennial.
Yes, and that's going to be fascinating. So those of you following along in your copy of your Invisible Toolbox, you're going to find us discussing Chapter 77. It's titled, A Canopy Open to New Sunlight. And if you don't have a copy of the book, scroll down, click on the link, and you can order yours. Let's get started.
Now, you might be watching this today and thinking, but I love my job, and I'm not looking for anything new right now, so professional development is not a high priority for me.
And that's a happy place to be. We hope everybody loves their job, but it turns out it needs to be important to us to continue to grow and learn anyway. LinkedIn contributor Joya Cousin gives us several reasons why it's important.
And first of all, she says that if you do enjoy your job, giving career development some attention will help you from getting stuck in a rut. And when we have to do the same things over and over again, it gets a bit boring, and actually we stop ourselves from growing.
Exactly. And another reason, we all have blind spots, we all have weaknesses, and it is through these opportunities to learn and grow we can discover those and figure out strategies to overcome them.
And we've mentioned already, fewer companies right now are offering formal professional development training, and so focusing on your own development will actually help you advance in your career. It could mean a raise or a promotion in your future.
And another great benefit of learning and growth is that with that often comes confidence to succeed, and that can help us reach our career goals.
So now we know why it's important to take a look at career development. How do we focus on it? And now we're going to take a look at our invisible tool, which is to learn something new, and it's on page 181 of our book. So let's take a look at it.
So we're going to begin by giving you a few tips on how you can continuously keep learning and growing. We recommend you think about incorporating some, if not all, of these into your workday.
So if there's something you want to learn more about, you can probably find an online course that will teach that to you. In fact, LinkedIn has a online education company called Lynda, Lynda, where they offer a lot of different courses on different subjects. If it relates to your career, you might legitimately be able to work that online course into your workday.
And another idea comes from Inc. Magazine. They suggest joining social networking groups with individuals from your own industry or your own field. We spend a lot of time on social media these days. Why not leverage that for learning as well?
Yes, and if you go on Facebook or LinkedIn, you can usually find social networking groups that actually relate to your industry or to your career. That not only helps you make connections, but also you find out what are the challenges other people are facing in your own field, and perhaps, what are the latest trends in your own industry. Those are important to know.
They are, and they're really important to watch. And if there is an emerging trend, take some initiative to become an expert on it. So you can attend a conference or read all of the periodicals and literature on the subject.
Yeah, and last, it might be a good idea for you to seek some mentoring. Mentoring can be really important. It doesn't have to be awkward. You don't have to go try to identify one person as your mentor. You can just ask people who are further along in their career some of their insights that might help you on your career path, and you might organically find a really good trusted mentor in that process.
Exactly. And we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about formal training workshops. Those of you that are watching are probably fans of Tero International and know about our intensive skill building workshops. If your company isn't offering them internally, and we know that seems to be a bit of a trend, fortunately not for all of our clients, we've got public workshops, and we've actually doubled the number of courses that are offered for 2019 simply because of the number of people that are looking for those individual growth opportunities.
Yeah, so many are taking charge of their own development and coming to that public workshop. So start with one of these. All of these strategies are good, but start by implementing something today. They can be pretty quick and pretty easy, but make a big difference in your career.
Yeah, and while you're out there on social media, if you do have a suggestion or if you're finding something that's working, let us know and let's share it with all our viewers.
So now it's time to look at our development challenge. This is going to be really fun. We've been talking about ways to grow and learn in our career, and we're going to give you some exercises that will just help you generally learn and grow.
Right, but don't panic. These aren't physical exercises like you use at the gym, but the analogy's pretty good. All of us know you can't go to the gym and do exercises just once and expect to transform your body, and that's the same with these type of exercises for improving our learning and growth.
So to engage, first just trying to learn something new. It could be a computer program, it could be a new language, it could be a musical instrument, even a crossword puzzle, or what is the thing that you do?
Sudoku. Yes.
Or register for a Tero class like we've talked about that will actually enhance your professional life. Just dive into learning something new.
And remember the wisdom of focus. We've talked about that on previous shows, and stop with the multitasking. That just kind of makes us scattered.
And engaging in activities that actually involve all of our senses. It's really, really impactful to do that, like dancing. Our sense of sight, touch, our sense of, what would it be, hearing as well. We have to be able to relate to the beat of the music. That is really powerful in being able to learn.
Absolutely. And remember how powerful repetition is. When you're starting to learn something, if you can repeat it frequently, it's more likely to stick.
And socializing as much as we can, volunteering, meeting up with friends, taking a new class. They actually say this improves our memory and our logical functions of our brain.
And I think it improves our happiness as well. They say social networks do that. Now, we all struggle with this next one a little bit, but make yourself disciplined to try to pay attention to the wisdom. Increasing daily physical exercise, it doesn't have to be anything really dramatic, and limiting that junk food. Not only does that help with our thinking capacity, there's research that says it may help us ward off things like Alzheimer's and dementia.
It's amazing, just finding that time for
Yes.
the physical activity. And here's another one I know we've all heard, is sleeping. And sleeping at least 6 to 8 hours a night, getting to bed early, that can actually help with our mental functions as well.
Exactly. So chances are pretty good. Most of these ideas aren't new to you, but now they're top of mind, and we encourage you to choose a few of them and implement them into your life to help you continue to learn and grow.
So now it's time to look at Tero's social media posts, and those of you who follow Tero on social media know that we post several links every day on relevant interpersonal skills topics, and every show we highlight 2 of the week's posts. So here are our 2 we're going to feature today.
And our first featured social media post is to a TED Talk from Ramsey Muslim. Now, he's a chemistry teacher, but it was a life-threatening illness that brought him to a revelation about 3 fundamentals around learning. This is only 7 minutes long. It's a much-watch video, and you'll find a link on all Tero social media platforms today.
And our second post is from a Harvard Business Review article that we've mentioned some of the tips from this article. The author is Carter Cast, and he gives a bit of background on why companies aren't providing as much formal professional training. That's interesting. But he also gives us 6 ways we can take control of our own professional development. We talked about a couple of them. There's more. This is going to be on all Tero social media posts on social media sites on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Well, now we're to the portion of the program that we always love. It's our Ask the Expert segment, and we're delighted to welcome to our table today our own Kyle Plummer,
Yes.
who's our Director of Marketing here at Tero International. He's also the director of your Invisible Toolbox, the show that you're watching. And we're going to tap his career expertise on what he's done for learning and growth. Welcome to our table, Kyle.
you.
Good to see you on this side of the camera.
Nice to have you. Well,
for
before we
having me.
get started on your professional development, can you just tell us a little about your background before you came to Tero?
Well, before I came here, I'm born in Minnesota. My dad was a business owner. My mom was a teacher, which is kind of interesting because I'm working for an education company, and I didn't actually piece that together until years later. But I came to Iowa State. I never thought I'd be in Iowa. Got a degree in marketing, and just kind of fell into a job here, and I've been here for about 6 years.
Yes, you have, and you've 4th time on our show.
Fourth
This is
time.
your 4th time.
Expert.
When you first started out in your career, were you very focused on professional development right at first?
I can't say that. I was definitely interested in getting better, but I think when I was first starting out, I felt so, now that, kind of looking back at myself, I don't think I was mature enough to really take a lot of the action that's required to get into some of this stuff, but you can't really help but start to develop based on being within this company. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of people that are talking about this topic, so I couldn't help but naturally get into it, but I don't think a lot of that drive came until, a year or two into it.
Okay. And what do you wish you would have known when you first started work? That's a good question.
That is a
isn't it?
good question.
I think for me, it even goes back before work, is that I just didn't ask enough questions. My mom will tell you I'm just extremely independent, kind of doing my own thing, and I like to figure out things on my own time and from my own perspective. But as I get older, I realize that I should have asked more questions. Like I said, my dad was in business, and I felt like I didn't really even know what he did, and I never was curious enough to ask the questions, because I feel like if I did, I'd have a better understanding of business and marketing, and it would have helped me out. So I'm kind of playing catch up at this point now.
Terrific insight for people that are coming along in their career behind you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What are the developmental opportunities you've taken advantage of in your career?
Well, I mean, there's a million things you can do here. You got so many workshops, and just being part of this organization, you kind of get nudged in certain directions, and you're able to take advantage of those opportunities. I also there's so much information out there. I think we forget just how much you can learn from doing a Google search or watching videos, reading books. I was just talking to somebody this weekend. He was 23 years old, just getting started in his career, and he was asking me what sort of things kind of helped me better myself, and it was always the small things. It was always the books I read, or the video I watched, or the workshops I was part of, and it kind of built on each other, and it just became this big thing. So it was always the small things that seemed to make a difference.
So you took charge by just really being inquisitive with all
Yeah.
those small opportunities. Now, marketing, how do you stay up to date on trends in marketing? Because that's just a moving
Oh,
target.
that is a
Yeah.
work in progress,
Yeah.
yes.
I think with marketing, it's both a challenge and it kind of a blessing, because on the one end, there is so much that you have to look into to try to get this stuff right. It's a lot of experimenting. I always see it as it's part creative and part science to it. So you have to keep testing things. I read a lot online, and going back to watching videos and just I'm part of a network of marketers, like-minded people that are in different industries that I can bounce ideas off of. I'm able to kind of hear about what's going on in their industries. And I think the biggest thing, more than anything, is because marketing is something that we can't miss. if you're driving somewhere, you flip on the TV, you're on a website, there's marketing and advertising being hit all the time. And I think most people avoid that stuff, but because I'm in that industry, it's always a learning experience. So I love ads, I love billboards, I love brands like Apple and Target, and just kind of looking at what they're doing and trying to reverse engineer it all and try to pull it back into what I'm doing. So it's kind of interesting that people get hit with 100 different messages a day from marketing. They hate it, but I see it as different. I love all the ads. I love learning that way. Yeah.
Never stop thinking about it.
Yeah. You're always growing.
Well, who has helped guide your career development so far?
Besides the people in this room, everybody. I mean, you've got everybody within Tero, both internal staff to the trainers. Obviously, my parents that I can go for questions. I keep going back to online. I mean, there's always, if there's someone out here that's listening that doesn't have a mentor and they don't know anybody physically that they could talk to, there's so much stuff online. There's books, there's videos, there's podcasts nowadays. I mean, there's endless ways that people can find somebody to help guide them.
Okay. Well, what advice would you give millennials who are just starting out in their careers? So you've had quite a trajectory of development through the course of being an intern at Tero all the way to being our director of marketing. What advice would you give people?
I think the biggest thing that I would say is just being naturally curious about things. I think too often we don't seem to think a lot, but I would always say experiment. I have friends that are in careers that they went to school for but they don't enjoy now because it was just the path that they took, and then they feel like they're stuck in that path, but really life's long and short depending on how you look at it. And I think the more you experiment, the more you test, the more you try to figure out what's the right mix for you, both in terms of your career or personal life, whatever it may be. I think just experimenting and thinking and taking time to get away from the devices, get away from the noise, and just kind of just be. Yeah.
Thank you so
That's
much.
terrific advice. Thanks for being
Yeah,
here.
thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, great insights.
Stay here while we close the show. You get to stay on this side.
Well, thanks for joining us today. If you missed any portion of the program or you want to share it with others, you'll find the entire program on Tero's YouTube channel. Join us again next Monday morning at 9:03 Central Time, where we'll explore another tool in your Invisible Toolbox.
And now it's your turn. We do welcome your suggestions for future shows, your ideas. Please email them to ideas@yourinvisibletooolbox.com. Get out there on your favorite social media platform and interact with us. And we'd like to have a thank you to Kyle for being our guest today and also taking care of the show every week, and Rachel Trainham, who's our camera person.
And thanks to all of you for joining us. And that's a wrap.